Hello everyone. Today, no stream, we're going to talk about Barba.js. Barba.js is a library that you can use to implement SPA navigation, SPA-like navigation in your sites, and also just create custom transitions to make things like, for example, look how cool this is. Look, we can switch between pages and things are moving smoothly between pages. Look how cool all this is.
That's effing sweet.
Our goal today is to implement this basic example, but it's going to help you a lot understand all the concepts of Barba.js. So let me show you in a second. We have 3 pages: home, about, and contact. And first of all, when navigating between home and about, look what's happening with just a cool fade in, fade out animation that it's right in the same tab without reloading the page. And then when switching between pages with the contact one, we're going to use flip to do this cool animation here, where we switch the logo from one side to the other. We're going to use 3 things. Well, obviously, we're going to use Webflow. We're going to use our developer starter template because I'm going to be coding in my VS Code environment using our template. And then we're going to use the Barba.js library. And we're going to use gsap for animations, okay? Let's start. And for now, I've just cloned a fresh copy of Climb First, okay? And we're going to prepare the project because I want to show you how we do it from scratch. Okay, this is a fresh copy. I don't have anything, right? But I want to replicate kind of what I did already in my testing project, which is I want to have 3 pages: a home page, an about page, and a contact page. And then we'll set up everything with the proper attributes and setting up the script, etc. Okay, let's do it super quick. So I'll just take this and I'll get rid of all the boilerplate in here. And this one is going to be the home page. And we're going to just create a bunch of buttons. So let's say buttons, wrapper. Let's put this on flex. And let's put columns like this. And in here, let's put 3 buttons. So one button, it's going to be for the home page. So this is the home. One button is going to be for the contact page. And one button is going to be for the about page, like this. And because I know that I have to create 3 copies, let's just make a component. So this is going to be buttons, whatever. Okay, so cool. Just duplicate this 3 times. I have home. Let's create an about page. Please let me know if I'm going too quick because I'm just trying to skip the setup to go jump right into actually using Barba.js. So this is the about page, and we're going to do another copy. That will be the contact page, like this, contact, in here. And the last thing that I have to do is just edit this button so each button points to the right page. So this is pointing to home, and this is pointing to about, and this is pointing to contact, like this. That's it. So, okay, we have the basic setup, right, with the 3 pages. But obviously, you can see that I don't have anything related to transitions. So, I want you guys to see how the regular navigation works. So when I'm on a page and I want to visit another page, what happens is that we just unload the current page, and the browser makes a full page reload and sends the new page. So if I go to about, it's very quick, but you can see the loading speed are happening, right? It's just basically changing the route and loading that new page as a regular navigation. But what Barba is going to allow us to do is, instead of doing this, it's going to implement an SPA type router, meaning that we're never going to leave the current page. So let me just show you the difference between this project, which is the one that I just created. It does not have still Barba.js. And the other project, which is the one that I created before, that has Barba.js installed. There is no page reload between pages. So we're actually never leaving the current page. We're always staying on the same page, and then Barba.js is doing some magic to just put the same page, put the next page that is coming right into the current page. So imagine just like we just changing the content of the current page, but we're never leaving the actual current page. As opposite as when we do just native navigation, we're always leaving the page. You can see that it's always reloading the page. Okay. So now that we have the basics, so we have the basic setup, let's just jump into the documentation of Barba.js. So in the Barba.js side, we have the documentation and has some intro. It just then explaining how to install stuff. And let's do that. I just, as a quick reminder, I have my own version of the developer starter template ready to be used here in my local environment. So the only thing that I want to do is, first of all, install Barba.js. We're using a bundler. We're going to install that because afterwards we're going to compile it. So we're going to run pnpm install barbacore. I remember, just as a reminder, we're using pnpm, but you can totally use npm. It's the same thing. Just a couple things change, but the actual behavior, it's the same. So pnpm install, and this is add barba core, like that. Not initall, not install. We just installed Barba, and we can move on, right? I'll just remove all the boilerplate that comes with the template, the developer starter template. Let me just remove everything. I just say console log hey in here, and let's take this and put it in the Webflow side. Okay, so I'll just do pnpm dev. Well, by the way, we made an update to the template, the developer starter template, and now when running pnpm dev, it already tells you how to set up the script correctly if you want to use it in the local environment. So it's pretty handy. I'll just take this and I'll come to the Webflow page, and for this particular project, instead of setting up the script on the page, we'll implement it in the custom code section of the project. So I could come to the project settings, but if you use the Finsweet extension, we have a candy for that to just access the global custom code. The only thing that I'm doing is I'm taking the local script and I'm putting it in the head of the global custom code, meaning that this is going to be loaded in all the pages, not only on the home page. Okay, let's publish this. So let's just check out if things are loading correctly. Yeah. Okay, so we have hey here. If I say, hey, what's up? It should be reloading. It is reloading. Cool. We're good to go. We can code, and everything that we code, it's going to be automatically reflected on the project. And this is very, very handy. So we can just move on with the documentation. Cool. So the first thing that Barba.js is going to ask is that we have to create a specific DOM structure, okay? This DOM structure consists of a wrapper, and it consists of a container, okay? And before I implement this in the Webflow project, let me jump in here in my canvas, because I want to draw you a couple things to explain exactly how Barba.js is going to handle all the page transitions, okay? So let's just draw. Let's imagine that this is a page. This can be the home page. So a website can have a lot of things, right? But we kind of want to just move some things around, not everything, because if we move everything, we're basically just doing a full page reload. We don't want to do that. Instead, let's just take this 1 second. We're going to have a wrapper. So this is called a wrapper. And this, another thing is going to be the content. The content. Like this. And let me just duplicate this for a contact page or the about page. About page. Each page is going to always have the same structure. It's going to have a wrapper defined, and inside the wrapper, it's going to have a content defined. And essentially what Barba.js does is the moment that you want to navigate from one page to another, so want to go from homepage to about, for example, instead of just leaving this page and moving to the next one, Barba.js is going to force the user to stay on the same page, but it's going to replace the content of that page. So the flow that's going to happen is exactly this one. Barba first will do this. It will take the content. Let me just group this. We'll take the content of the about page and put it in here. Boom. Like this. This is the first step that Barba does. It takes the content, it puts it in the same page as we are. So we could understand these as homepage content and about page content. And then it's gonna take the homepage content and we'll just remove it and put this up like this. Boom. And boom. So essentially, the only thing that's happening is it's taking the content from one page and putting it on the same page where we are. We're never leaving the current page. That's it. But you'll see in a second that there are actually some life cycles at every point of this flow that we can just use for then creating any kind of animations that we want. Okay, but let me just refresh what happened here. We have a home page and we want to navigate to about page. So the Barba.js takes the content from the about page, puts it in the home page, and then deletes the content from the home page. So meaning that after all, this is no longer the home page. This is the contact page, but we've never left the actual page. We just replace the content. So let's implement this. If we take the Barba docs, as I mentioned, we have a wrapper and content, and we have to define those. Barba.js, usually they just mention that the wrapper just defined the body, and the content, it's going to be what we want. Actually, it's not content. Sorry, it's container. Sorry for the typo, but this is supposed to be called container. Okay, I don't want to confuse you guys. So container. And whatever is inside the container, it's the only thing that Barba will be taking from one place and putting it on another place. So for example, here, the wrapper, it's the entire page, but the container, it's just here, this content. And this is why the navbar never changes, but the content from here changes when we are navigating. So we'll do the same. We'll just take the project, and on the body, we're going to define data barba equals to wrapper. And on the main wrapper in my case, but imagine that, that I have an up bar like this. So I don't want to change the navbars, right? I just want to change the content. So I'll just take the main wrapper as this case. So I'll just say data barba equals to container. And essentially, only the content from the main wrapper element here, it's going to be swapped from one page to another. Not the global styles, not the navbar, not the page wrapper, not the body. Only the container, the main wrapper. Okay, I'll just get rid of this navbar for now. Okay, but now I have to go through all the pages and do the same. Data barba equals to wrapper. Just copy this. And main wrapper data barba equals to container. And the last one, contact data barba wrapper, and main data barba container, like this. Okay, we're ready. So the next thing that we just need to do is init barba, right? So we'll just jump into the code base. I think that we can get rid of this console log. And for now, we'll import barba from barba core, like this. And let's just call barba.init. That's it. No options passed. No arguments, nothing. We're just saying that barba init. Automatically, when we call this, let me just minify this like that. When we call this, Barba is going to look for the wrapper and the content of my page, and automatically it's going to do the magic for me. Okay, so let's try it out. We're on the page. We've instantiated Barba.js, and when I navigate between pages, look what is happening now. See how I'm never reloading the page? I'm never leaving the current page. Barba.js is just changing the content for me. Look. And look if I disable it. Let's disable, and let's do it again. Look what's happening now. The page is reloading every single time. But if I edit Barba again, sorry if I'm being repetitive. Now Barba is just replacing stuff for me. We're never leaving the current site. Okay, cool. So this is the basics. We've defined the DOM structure and we've initted the Barba.js library. But now, obviously, we want to do cool stuff, right? We want to just animate stuff from one place to another, do cool transitions, whatever. Okay. At this point, Barba.js kind of has already done its work. It's up to us to implement how we want stuff to be animated between each transition, right? So let's just move on. And if you want to just follow along by yourselves later, here in the docs, they explain a basic transition, but I'll just do it myself for now. When passing Barba init, you can pass a bunch of options. It's basically a bunch of setup options, but then transitions, it's what's most interesting for us. Because here in transitions, we're going to be able to define what we want to do with the elements at what point of the movements that Barba.js is doing between one page to another. Okay, and let's just, for now, let's keep it in empty array. Because first of all, I want to show you the life cycle of Barba. So remember the flow that I told you about when Barba is moving one thing from one place to another. It's taking one element, it's putting it on the current page, and then it's removing the all content, right? But all of these different steps, we have the ability of hooking into them to run any logic that we want. And Barba.js has a cool graphic here where they explain the total workflow so you can just see exactly what's interesting for you to use. Okay, it's called the page lifecycle, and they basically explain, okay, before we moving anything, that's the start. Then the first thing that's gonna happen is that we are gonna leave the current page. So it's like the transition, it's thinking about taking the current content and just leaving from that, okay? We have a hook for before leaving, when leaving, and after leaving. Right after this has happened, the next container, meaning the next page that it's coming inside the current page, it's added. And after the next container has been added, then we can also run a bunch of steps. We have a before enter, a enter, and an after enter life cycles, hooks, sorry. And after everything is done, there is the after hook. Okay, this kind of seems like a lot, but essentially having this granular control about every single step, it gives us a lot of options to just run logic for creating amazing transitions, animating stuff ourselves. Okay, So we'll start doing that. Let's just go here. And in here in transitions, let's create our first transition. The first thing that we need is just a name. It's just for definition. Let's just call it default, can be cool transition. It doesn't matter. I just call it default. Okay. It's more for organization because we can have multiple transitions. So it's up to you to just organize yourself. And in here, look that we have all these different hooks that we defined. Every single hook that we have during the page lifecycle, before leave, leave, after leave, before enter, enter, after enter, it's in here. And we can run a function for every single of those hooks. Okay, let's just take all the hooks for now. Let's just say before leave, and let's just console log before leave. And let's just do the same on leave. And after leave, say I'm just using Copilot here because it's pretty amazing to just have everything filled. So like this, and after enter, like that, and I think that the next one is just after. I console log after, and I think we before, like this. And this is just going to be console log before. So essentially, I'm just now taking every single hook from here, and I'm going to console log it to just show you how it really works in the background. So let's open the console in here, and now let's trigger a navigation. Let's just go from the home page to the about page. Okay, I'll just go there and look. Every single function ran in the same order that we had here. Okay, so we have the before leave, leave, after leave, before enter, enter, after enter, and after. Okay, that's a lot of things. But for now, let's just focus on leaving and entering, because this is where we want to do a basic transition. So the leave one, it's just when the current content it's gonna leave, and the enter one, it's where the new content it's gonna enter the page, right? And here is where we want to animate stuff. So inside these functions, we have an argument that it's just the data, and this is passing the current data of the state of everything. Let me just console log leave, and then the data. Sorry, console log the data. And let's do the same here. Enter, and then console log enter, like this. Not enter, but data. And let's see what's in here. So now we are in the about page. Let's go to the home page. And you will see how leaving, we have a bunch of information about the what's going on. The current property, it's talking about the current page. So in that case, it was the about page. And the next, it's the incoming page. In this case, it was the home page. So we can access the container, we can access the raw HTML, we can access the URL if you want to check it for any reason, whatever. And then also, if you need it, we can also access the trigger that triggered the transition between one page to another. Okay, so let's just use this data to make a basic animation. I want to do some fade out, fade in animation to just show you the flow. So we'll come here, and as I mentioned before, we need gsap to work because we want to just animate stuff by ourselves. We'll just use gsap. So I'll install gsap, the npm add gsap, like that. And let me just run dev again. Cool. So let's import this from gsap, and I'll just use gsap. But with gsap, we can just animate something. When leaving, we want to take the current page and fade it out. So we'll just say gsap 2, and we'll take the data current container. Let me just disable Copilot because it's just, yeah, we'll disable it for now. And we want to bring it to opacity 0. Copilot kind of knows already that I coded this before, so it just it's just bringing up again all the snippets. So that's why, yeah, disabled. Okay, cool. So we're taking the current container and we're just doing a fade out of it, right? Maybe we can define a duration about 1 second. Okay, and just move this down here. And one thing that we want to do is, obviously, we want to wait until the page has faded out before we fade in the next page. Okay, so if we use promises, Barba.js already waits until one hook has finished entirely before moving on to the next hook. So if we make this async and we wait for the animation to finish, then the enter animation, it's not going to happen until the out animation, the leave animation, finishes. So when leaving, we're setting the current container to opacity 0. And when entering, let me just copy this and put it here. We're gonna sync. We're gonna take the next container and move it from opacity 0 to opacity 100%, or opacity 1. I think it's the same. Yeah, it's just 0 to 1. So I think that's it. Let's try it out. Yay! Like this. Yep. Like this. Cool. Okay. So let's make it a little bit quicker. 0.5. Not opacity, sorry. Duration. Let's make it 0.5. And here, duration 2. Let me see. Okay, cool. So you can see now the basics is just, fading out, fading in, that's it. Okay, so now one thing that I want to show you is, look here on the sidebar, the scroll bar, what happens if you navigate. Look how weirdly a scroll bar appears here, right? And it's making just like, what? The reason is because, as I mentioned before, Barba.js, it's essentially just taking the content from one page, and first of all, it puts right underneath the current content, the current container. And after the transitions has finished, then it takes the current container and removes it like this. So that's why when you navigate from one page to another, you can see this weird scroll bar happening right in here, like this. Okay. One thing that we can do to avoid it is, maybe when we're transitioning one container to another, we set it to position fixed. So the container, it's still gonna be put underneath, but because it's gonna have position fixed, it's just gonna overlap one container with another. And this is one thing that we'll do later when we implement the flip animation. Let's move to transitions and let's make a little bit more custom granular control over these transitions. We've defined just one transition, right? Which is the default transition. But now let's imagine that I don't want to be running this same animation everywhere. Maybe when I go from home to about or to whatever other page, I want to have this default transition. But when I navigate to the contact page, maybe I want to have a different transition. Maybe because in contact, I have different elements, or because, I just want to do it different for whatever reason. We have two ways of doing that. The first way, it's using what's called, let me go, I think it's in here. Yes, one it's called namespaces and views, which would be this in here in the documentation, which essentially we can just define a specific page with a namespace, and then we target that namespace So imagine that in here in contact, we'll take the main wrapper, which is the container, and we'll also add a data barba, not dot, sorry, data slash, data dash, I don't know how to speak, data dash barba namespace, and we'll define this as contact. So essentially, we're able to identify, okay, this content that is coming, it's from the namespace contact. And we'll use that to identify and run specific transitions for the contact page. So if we just go down here, we could call what's called views. And here in views, we can add a view, and it's asking me for the namespace, and the namespace is going to be contact. And imagine that maybe after enter, we want to just say console log entered contact. Okay. This is only going to run in the contact page, but not on the rest of the pages. So if we check the console here, we navigate to the home page, it's not saying anything. But if we navigate to the contact page, it says enter contact. So we're essentially able to identify a container based on that namespace. But we also have more control if in transitions, we create what's called rules. So in transitions, if you go to the transitions docs and you scroll down a little bit, you'll see rules. And these rules, it's essentially a way of defining, okay, every time that I navigate to a specific page, I want to run this transition. Or every time that I leave that page, I want to run that transition. Or every time that I move from one page, maybe from the home page to the contact page, I want to run that other transition. So we have really a lot of control over what we want to use. So let's just create it here. I'll just create one more. And I think that, so let's just call contact transition, whatever. We can call it however we want, okay? But if we define that we want from, no, not from, to, and in here we define namespace, and it's the contact. Essentially, we're saying, okay, everything that I define now, it's always going to run when I'm from any page to the contact page. Or maybe I could say from, imagine that we have a namespace for the home page. Okay, so then this transition would also only run when I go from the home page to the contact page. Okay, so last thing, and I promise that this one is worth it. Remember that when we are moving things around, we're never leaving the page, meaning that Webflow does not recognize if something has changed on the page, right? Because Webflow just runs once when you load the page. Webflow scans the page and then it knits everything. And let me make you a super quick example that it's super helpful. Imagine that I have a contact form. Oops, no. I wanted to type form and I just typed contact. Imagine that I have a form like this on the home page, and also I have a form in the about page like this. Okay, let me show you what happens. Let's just publish this. I think that it is, yeah, this is required and this is, yeah, whatever. Okay. We have a form on the home page, okay? We just landed on this page. So meaning that Webflow has loaded Webflow.js and has scanned the page, and Webflow now knows that there's a form here, okay? If I try to submit this, Alex, just whatever, like this, the form is gonna work fine. You can see that Webflow just showed me the thank you message. This is something that Webflow does for me. This is not native to the browser. This is JavaScript that Webflow runs to show me this thank you message. But now I'm going to navigate to the About page. And I'm going to try to submit again this, like this. Look what happens when I submit. Nothing happens. So, well, actually, it happened something, and it's that it just made a regular form submission, but Webflow did not show me the thank you message. The reason why this is happening is because Webflow doesn't know about this form. So if I just refresh again the page, if I refresh the page, Webflow knows about this form. But when I move to the About page, because I'm never actually leaving the page, it's just Barba taking one piece of content and putting it on the page. Webflow does not know about this. So I can submit it, but Webflow will not show me the thank you message. It's not gonna do the native behavior. This happens for everything related to any library. In Webflow, this happens for interactions, for sliders, for tabs, for forms, and then for any third-party library, also happens the same. For attributes, for Swiper.js, for whatever kind of library you're using, you kind of have to notify that library that something has changed, right? Because otherwise the library doesn't know about that. So this is where we can use the hooks for implementing the actions ourselves. Remember that here in the hooks, in the lifecycle, we have access to every single step that is happening when transitioning content from one place to another. So if we run a hook in the after one, means that the current container, so everything is already changed. We've taken the current container, we've added the next container, and we've removed the current container. So when we run the after hook, it's like we're on a new page, kind of, okay? So we could do it directly in the transitions. So we could take the transition and create here a hook for after and just run it here. But obviously this would just be specific to this transition. And I want to run this on all transitions. So we can define the global hooks with Barba. And it's just Barba dot hooks, I think. Let me just check 1 second. I believe so. Yeah, Barba dot hooks. And then in here, we can just define after, like this. If I console log this, am I missing something? Oh, yeah, right, because it's expecting a callback. So let's just say this, console log after. So when we define a global hook, this after, it's going to run always. It doesn't matter if it's running for the default transition. It doesn't matter if it's running the specific to contact transition. It doesn't matter if it's, whatever transition you have, if you define it globally, you're always going to run that hook. And let's just check it super quick, and then I'll jump into how to fix this form issue here. So if we go to home, about, you can see that it's running leave, enter, and after. If we go to contact, leave, enter contact, and after. If we go to home, the same. The last thing that it's going to run, it's always the after. So inside the after, we can safely just restart Webflow. Okay, usually you probably know about, you've seen this, but usually you would do something like window.webflow equals to window.webflow or an array, and then window.webflow push. Actually, no. Here you would probably say window.webflow that require ix2, and then or window.webflow destroy. So you would just do everything manually, or you can just use tsutils. If you've installed the developer starter template, it already comes with a package that it's called tsutils, Finsweet tsutils. And inside Finsweet tsutils, we have what's called a restart Webflow. This is a helper function that we've already prepared ourselves that does everything for you. It restarts all the components from Webflow. It restarts the interactions. It restarts e-commerce if you're using e-commerce. It does everything for you. And actually, let's await this. Let's make it async like this. So now, essentially, we're saying, okay, every single time that we navigate from one page to another, please restart Webflow entirely. So now, let's just check it again. Let me refresh this. Homepage, try to submit this. It works. We can see the thank you message. Webflow is working fine. If we go to the about page, now, because we've run the logic, here in after, we're just going potentially, I hope that it works, but we've restarted Webflow. So if we do this, it works. Yeah. So it's the same. So now essentially we just told Webflow, hey, we've changed stuff, so please rescan the page to look for whatever changed. So we're done. We've implemented the basics of Barba.js today. We've taken a project with defined a bunch of pages, and we've created transitions to go from one page to another like this, creating just this fade out, fade in animation. I've also explained all the different lifecycle hooks that we have inside Barba, so you can take them and create animations by yourself. And also I've explained how to deal with third-party libraries, like for example, Webflow, when using components like a form. You have to restart those components. So that's covered too. Next stream, we're gonna take this same Barba.js topic, and we're gonna go a little bit deeper. We're gonna create some crazy interactions. Maybe we'll do some flipping. We'll see. Or if you have suggestions, please ask those, because maybe we'll implement them on the next stream. So thank you for being here. Leave a like if you enjoyed this content, and see you on the next one. Thank you.